Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Ryan Becker and I make videos where I discuss all things absurd in religion, culture, and society. Now, if you're new here, glad you're here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button before you leave, and feel free to check out some of my other projects like the Absurd Podcast Network and my podcast Absurdity. And you can also check out all the links to everything that will be referenced in this video in the description, as well as links to pick up some merch, join our community Discord, and more. So without further ado, let's get into it. In this video, I'm going to talk about some common arguments I hear for why we shouldn't forgive student loans, and I'm going to attempt to debunk quite a few of them. Now, I do have student loans, but I refinanced them into a personal loan just under a year ago. So this entire video is being made with the understanding that if they were to forgive all student loan debt from the federal government, I wouldn't actually fall into that category anymore. So with that in mind, let's jump into point number one. They were adults making adult decisions. They signed a contract and they should be expected to keep that contract. And while I understand the core principle behind this point, and honestly, I agree with that idea, I do think that we should be teaching people to keep their commitments and keep their word and honor that. That's an important part of growing up. But I think that within this context, it assumes a knowledge onto college students that many of them just don't really have. The bottom line is, even with so much information out there about student loans, there are many families and students that I talk with and that others in this industry talk with as well that just are completely uninformed or ignorant to student loans because the information that is out there can be hard to understand and there's no one to help them navigate it on their own. Now you combine this with generations of teachers, employers, colleges, every adult around telling students that they have to go to college, that this is the only way to be successful in life, and you've got entire generations of people that will take on student loan debt because they believe that's just what they have to do. It's been ingrained in them that there is no other way to be successful. So what else do we expect from them? Yes, they may have been legally an adult at the time they were making a decision, but they were also kind of misled about the importance of student loans when it comes to financing education, or just the importance of having to go one specific route in order to secure a job in the future. Those being weighed down by student loans now are those who were told by adults that were entrusted to teach and guide them that college was the only way forward, that they had to go to college or else they would fail. These weren't adults making adult decisions. These were teenagers who had it ingrained in them that there were no other options. We've created and established a culture both socially and professionally that says you have to do this or else you will fail. It's no wonder that 18-year-olds and even 17-year-olds and families that co-sign on these loans are taking them in spades because they don't believe there's any other option. In fact, I would say that forgiving these loans would be more like righting a wrong than it would be doing anything about undoing some mistake that someone made in their past. Point number two, maybe they should have taken majors that actually pay well. Now, this is usually when you hear someone like Ben Shapiro mention underwater basket weaving in reference to majors that just don't pay as well as a major like a STEM major, science, technology, engineering, and math. But there are several problems with this line of thinking. First, it assumes that someone is going to stay on the exact same career path that they chose in college. But that doesn't happen as often as people think. People change their full-on careers, not just jobs, several times throughout their life, especially in their early professional life. Second, the generalization puts those who chose the well-paying majors in the same boat as those who didn't. But that's not the case at all. In fact, the vast majority of people choose majors that do end up paying well. Here, check this out first. Of the 2 million bachelor's degrees conferred in 2017 to 2018, more than half were concentrated in 5 fields of study: business, health professions and related programs, social sciences and history, engineering, and biological and biomedical sciences. This is from the National Center for Education Statistics. Third, just because some people might unfairly benefit from this doesn't mean that it's a reason we shouldn't help everyone else out. Just because some people might take advantage of a system doesn't mean we don't help everyone. Lastly, this line of thinking projects a false narrative onto liberal arts degrees and liberal arts majors that just isn't true. So check this out. In the first years after graduation, social sciences and humanities majors earn less than people who have pre-professional degrees. But at peak earning ages, liberal arts majors surpass people in pre-professional degrees, in part because they are more likely to have graduate degrees. There's one area where humanities and social sciences majors have everyone beat: meeting employers' desires and expectations. Employers consistently say they want to hire people who have a broad knowledge base and can work together to solve problems, debate, communicate, and think critically. The report notes all skills that liberal arts programs aggressively and perhaps uniquely strive to teach. Point number 3, forgiving student loans doesn't actually fix the real problem, which is rising tuition costs and banks that are giving out loans that they have no business giving out. Now, I agree here that the real problem isn't the student loans themselves, but it's the system that allows for them to be needed in the first place. 100% agree with that. However, that doesn't mean that we should let people suffer and live paycheck to paycheck, just barely trying to make their payments, while also having to put off the rest of their lives and major milestones while we talk about possible solutions to the real issues. We can actually accomplish both, and I don't know why we don't just accomplish both. The bottom line is, the more that we spend time talking about what the real issue is, the more that people are struggling to make their payments on time. They're struggling to start families. They're struggling to get out of debt that they should have never taken in the first place, but they were set up unfairly to take anyway. That's money that could be freed up immediately, that would help stimulate the economy as Americans are spending money. Or it allows them to save that money and actually have an emergency fund. And all of this can be happening while we are figuring out what to do about the real issues. Point number 4. It's not fair to people who have already paid off their loans. Now, I agree with this. It isn't fair. The reality is, if you've already paid off your student loans, you no longer fall into the category of someone who isn't able to pay those bills, because you've completed it and you no longer even have those bills. What I don't understand is why we've built up this huge culture of individualism that says that no one else can have something good unless I also get that good thing. It's like that episode of South Park where Cartman gets a gift on Stan's 10th birthday.
Yeah, open mine first, Stan. It's the red one. Where's mine? Where's mine? Where's mine? Where's mine?
Here you go, sweetie.
Yay! Wait, it's Stan's birthday.
Yes, every time somebody gets a birthday present, Eric gets one too. Otherwise, he gets a little upset.
This argument isn't logical or rational. It's just petty and filled with jealousy. And point number 5, they should work their way through college like I did, instead of relying on loans and being lazy. Now, this is such a blatant misunderstanding of economic shifts and patterns in the last 40 years that I don't even know where to start. I'll actually be doing a whole video on this soon, but I figured that this was so important to this conversation that I couldn't just leave it out for the sake of content later. So you may see this come up again in a little bit, but don't worry, that'll be much more thorough and about a broader topic as a whole. So check out this chart. This is from Pew Research Center, showing the spending power of wages from 1964 until 2018. That top green line is what the yellow line would be equivalent to in 2018 when this study and this research was done. So back in 1964, $2.50 per hour was equivalent to $20.27 per hour. Now, that green line, think of it as buying power or spending power, right? So you would expect that as the yellow line of actual wages rises, that spending power would as well. But in reality, the spending power is almost identical to what it was in 1964. But now look at this, because according to the same article from Pew Research, after adjusting for inflation, today's average hourly wage has just about the same purchasing power it did in 1978. Following a long slide in the 1980s and early 1990s, and bumpy, inconsistent growth since then. In fact, in real terms, average hourly earnings peaked more than 45 years ago. The $4.03 an hour rate recorded in January 1973 had the same purchasing power that $23.68 would in 2018. But now look at this from CNBC. From 2008 to 2018, the average tuition at four-year public colleges increased in all 50 states. On average, tuition at these schools has increased by 37%, and net costs have increased by 24%. So the reality is, college costs have significantly outpaced minimum wage growth in this country. But what if a student does want to work their way through college? What's that math actually work out to, and how much do they actually have to work? What does that look like? Well, I'm glad you asked. Now, the data I'm about to go over was taken from the New Republic back in 2015 when they actually ran the numbers on all of this. But it's pretty safe to assume that these numbers are still pretty on point, if not worse, considering the fact that tuition has still continued to rise while our spending power hasn't. In 1979, it took 385.5 hours to pay off 1 year of the average college tuition. In 2015, it took 2,229 hours to pay off 1 year of the average college tuition. For reference, a 40-hour work week is composed of about 2,080 hours over the course of a year. To be both enrolled in school full-time and work enough at $7.25 per hour to pay off 1 year of the average college tuition would take a student 3,249 hours. For reference, that's more than half the amount of time that the average American is even awake all year long. Working your way through college is literally untenable at this point. Now, there may be a few stories out there of people even today that have managed to accomplish this, especially those who get into the creative content business and that actually pays off and does well. I don't want to diminish those stories, but I also don't want to project what is reality for a few onto everyone else. And the bottom line is, our workforce is not made up of the very few people that worked their way through college. It's made up of the masses that are in desperate need of assistance and relief from the crushing weight of student loan debt. Personally, I believe that we should forgive student loans. And I think that we should do that while also talking about and creating legislation that fixes the problem of rising tuition costs and student loans that are taking over everyone's lives. But outside of that, I think we should talk about things like trade schools. I think we should talk about alternatives to college that still provide a practical way of living. Now, granted, college is still the most guaranteed way to actually make more money on average, but that doesn't mean that those trades are any less necessary or warranted. And to be honest, we need those now more than ever, and it's very realistic that things like electricians and plumbers and mechanics can make 6 figures a year. This isn't out of the ordinary for these positions at all right now. We need to investigate alternative ways. We need to inform and educate our high school students of all of the possibilities that are available to them. Now, I know what you're thinking. I told you that I'm a college recruiter, so where is this coming from? Because doesn't that hurt me? The reality is, my school isn't for everyone. And while yes, every student I talk to, I do want them ultimately to choose the school that I work with and that I love so much, man, the reality is I want them to go to the place that's going to equip them the best and work the best for their situation. It's not just about going to where I want them to go. It's about going to the place that's best for them and going the route that's best for them. And so I help students and families with college application processes to even other schools sometimes. I help them make the most informed decision that they can. So this isn't coming from a place of selfishness. This is coming from a place of sincere desire to see us build each other up. Because ultimately, I believe all of us benefit when we do focus on building each other up. So I hope you found this video helpful. And let me know in the comments, what do you think about all of this? And what do you think are practical ways that we can solve the student loan debt crisis? It's up to 1.7 trillion at this point. So thanks for watching, and make sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. Make sure to like this video, leave a comment down below, and engage with all the rest of my content if you want to see more. But thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.